Today we're looking at managing personal stress in the workplace, developing personal awareness of stress, the first session. My name is Dr. Bruce Wells. We'll see how the technology is going today. Now, straight away to get us going, I like to start with an activity straight away. Just gets everyone relaxing a little bit. Firstly, just quickly run around the table and just, don't actually run around the table, but let's go around the table. What sort of a class is this? And just tell us your first name, so that, because this is lovely, we've got a nice
stand up and walk around the table.
No.
I said run around the table.
For those who have just learned English, just tell us your name and maybe what department you're in.
Okay, my name is Sigurd Ozels, and I'm in the prep year program right now, working on the final examinations for the end of the spring semester.
Okay, good. Next.
My name is John Wallace. I'm in the core program. I've been here almost 3 months.
Good, thanks John. Next.
My name is Bond.
Bond. No introduction necessary.
My name is Z, and I've been here for about 3 weeks now. I'm in College of Business.
Good, very good.
My name is Andy. I'm from civil engineering. I just came here, I think, a week before you.
Yes.
For 4 weeks, yeah.
Good, thanks Andy.
I'm Hala, and I'm in the core department, and I'm here for 6 weeks.
Okay, 6 weeks.
Yes. Yeah, I came before the week of the spring break, so.
My goodness. Okay, and I'm Des Rice. The only two I haven't met are new people over here. Usually I meet all the new faculty because we're doing orientation, and that's the time I get to touch with. So sometime I may try to still see if we can set up something where we can meet the two of you as well. If you've been here for 3 weeks. You're in which department?
College of Business.
College of Business, and you're in engineering. Okay, that's great.
I think we're going to have orientation like in the early fall, or?
That's a different.
Oh, that's a different thing, okay.
That'll be 3rd September 3.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, just take a moment to fill this out, everyone. And just a good way to kick it off. I've actually got some pencils here if anyone needs a pencil. There we go, perfect.
Perfect.
You can actually keep these, and we'll deduct it from your salary. Great, good. That's all right, don't worry about the next page, John. We'll get to that later on. Just to give us a bit of an idea about what we think stress is, how we define it. Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, just to kick it off, Z, what's something you noticed as you were filling out those questions? What did you notice? What is stress?
Well, I noticed that some...
Oh, okay, Z.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking.
That's all right, go for it. This man's assertive, go for it. Take the floor.
I thought you were
That's all right.
saying, okay. What was your question?
Z, Z, would you like to repeat the question?
I'm
What
getting
was,
stressed
what did you
now.
notice from going through that?
Yeah, I noticed, what I did notice was that there's this middle column that says maybe, and there are some statements here, like, that I answered maybe. Stress, for instance, number 13, stress is when you can't cope. I answered maybe, because stress implies that this is what stress is. But stress also could come when you can cope, but other factors enter into it. So,
Okay.
uh,
That's all right. Hold it there. Dr. Rice, what did you notice?
I noticed with this, I've got a lot of maybes in here
Yeah,
because it
maybes.
depends on the individual, depends on the circumstances,
Yes.
and so on.
Okay, excellent. What about you, Andy? What did you notice?
Yeah, I think this one is relative to.
Okay, good. Circumstances, the individual.
Something like absolute I can find here, like, some stress can be learned, like how to handle stress, right?
Okay.
You can learn how to handle stress. Absolutely, I agree with that.
Okay, good, good. What about John? What did you notice?
I agree, it's relative. I think like most behavior, it's probably learned and can be controlled and managed to a degree.
Okay, very good. Okay. So straight away we can see there's different definitions of stress, and as we all pointed out, it depends on the circumstance, the individual, our background, learning environment. Okay, these are some of the things we're going to touch on. Nice going. Let's go straight ahead. Now, just to fill you in, I mentioned this at the start of the session, but I'll just repeat for you. What we're doing is, there are 6 sessions. What I'm going to do is do this session today, and next week I'll do this workshop. And these 6 are part of this unit, Managing Personal Stress in the Workplace. And this unit is one of a number of units in this certificate, called Certificate 2 in Customer Contact. And this is part of a program, a workplace program in Australia. So if we did get to do all these 6, you would get this unit. This would be a great thing to have. But anyway, we'll do the first one today, and we'll do number 2, developing stress management techniques, next time. So something to keep in the back of your mind. Hopefully, eventually, the university might be willing to do things like this, so people would actually get the certificate. This would be a nice thing to add to your resume.
So you think of that for next
Good.
year.
Good. Okay, let's move on. Objectives, 4 things we're going to cover today, which is part of this unit, developing personal stress. We've already had a bit of a look at good stress and bad stress, just a bit of an introduction, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Then the effects of stress, different way it affects us, our sleeping habits, health costs, turnover in staff, all sorts of things. We'll talk about this. Signs of stress, physiology, cognitive, behavioural, biting your nails, we'll look at that. And finally, workplace sources of stress. And again, what we're going to endeavour to do today is make all of this relevant to PMU, just so we get more out of it. All right, any questions at this stage? Again, if you've got any questions, we've got a great little group today. Just throw questions at me. Good stress and bad stress. Now, one thing I think a lot of you probably, looking at your sheets, all the ticks in those different columns, we mentioned stress is different for people, different people, and also we could say there is bad stress, we use the word distress, and there's actually good stress. A lot of people are surprised to hear this. And we call that word eustress, bit of an ugly word. We tend to think of stress as being distress, it's something negative, and that gives us this definition. The adverse reaction people have to excessive pressures or other types of demand placed on them. That's sort of the definition most people have in their mind. But eustress, boy. So this can actually, it's positive stress. It can motivate us to do something. I know myself, if I didn't have, it's positive stress that gets me out of bed every morning. You know what I mean? Whether it's having to pay the bills, whether it's hoping to catch up with my workmates, whatever the reason. Otherwise you wouldn't get out of bed. So that's a bit of positive stress. The positive stress examples. Can anyone think of any other examples? We've got their marriage, job promotions, holidays, new cars. You can see that they could also be negative, couldn't they? You know what I mean? You just bought a new car and it breaks on you, crashes.
So the first one.
Marriage?
Yes.
Okay.
That could be a source of stress.
And maybe if you're just married or if you're 10 years down the road.
It's always a source of
That's
stress.
delicate.
I was thinking of if I have a deadline to meet.
Okay.
That's really, I'm sort of goal oriented, and I know I've got to have it done by so and so time, and I get it done. But that's good. I think
Okay. So if we didn't have deadlines,
yes.
there's a positive spin on deadlines. I know that a lot of my students, I say the word deadline,
Yeah.
and they're the complete opposite. Why do we have to have deadlines, teacher? We wouldn't get any work off them, let's be honest.
Our children to that. Children could be a source of good stress.
Oh,
Yes.
Especially when they achieve things, you know, you see them going through certain milestones in their life. Yeah.
great example. Great example.
I
Yeah.
think all new things like new jobs, new home, anything new is a good stress.
Okay.
It's change, but
So what about yourselves? You've been here 6 weeks.
Yes, 6 weeks.
Good stress, bad
well, I'm
stress?
just thinking of like when I'm moving here, when I got the job,
Uh-huh.
I was stressed. I mean, because like I have never been here. This is my first like formal job. I just got my PhD last December.
Okay.
So,
Okay, great.
so that's stress, but in a positive sense. So,
Yeah.
so.
What about new people?
Yeah, good. Andy, what about you?
Well, I think anxiety.
Anxiety.
That's
Good word.
a new culture, a new environment, never been here before. I think pretty much that same feeling.
Yes. I can
But
imagine.
after like been here for 3 weeks, well, everything is normal as I anticipated, and looking forward to the future here.
Interesting, interesting. I know we've got a few people. Zig, you've been to several countries, haven't you?
Well, I have, and I've also been in Saudi Arabia for quite a few years.
Oh, right.
So I feel coming back here after being away for 7 years, and I was KQPM for 9 years, I feel almost like coming back home in many ways. And I feel actually if we address the element or the magnitude or lack of it of stress in my present situation, I would say I'm in a lesser area of stress than I've been more or less used to over the past 3
Okay,
years.
okay, good.
And that's my feeling, on
Very
the
good.
ground feeling right now, actually.
Okay. John, how long have you been here now?
I've been here almost 3 months.
3 months.
I started out with 9 classes.
Okay.
John.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. And I had some classes at 9 a.m. and some classes 8 to 10 p.m. 2 days a week.
Mm.
Yeah.
That kept you going.
That was stressful.
Yes, that's good work.
Yeah,
Was that
I was
positively
stressed.
stressful or?
And it's, I think
Yeah.
now that I think about this, the older I get, the more equipped I am. I'm very good at taking psychological tests. Zip, zip, zip.
Yep.
But I think it's the element of uncertainty
Mhm.
and stress. And that produces anxiety, and that produces a level of more stress that is, I want to say more stress, it adds more spice or more fire to the stress.
Yes, very good.
And I think a lot of things up there could be uncertainty to some degree. There's an element of uncertainty with those sort of things.
Yeah.
I think if you look at uncertainty, it's coming to a new culture, never been in the Middle East, and never been in Saudi Arabia, so it's very different from what I used to. The students here are very different than in the Far East, Korea, China, or the USA. So adapting to that, adapting to the heavy teaching load, and then other stuff on top of that, it produces a lot of stress. Now I'm teaching 7 courses, so it's much more manageable. It's much more easier to deal with. But coming here, yeah, there's a stress and everything else. Still waiting for my wife's visa. That should be coming in about 3 weeks from the Philippines. So, I mean, eventually it's, I'm less stressed, as we say in California. Are you stressed? Stressed. So I'm less stressed, but I think I'm sort of trying to find the sort of culture, because I think the student culture here is different than other places. And I think PMU is a sort of unique situation in some degree. So when you combine all those factors, there's stress, but there's adaptability. If you are an adaptable person and you can learn behavior and modify your behavior and talk to people like I talk to you
Okay.
and other people, then I can find a solution
Excellent, excellent.
lesser the stress.
You raised a good point there that I'll just quickly mention, and I heard you say that uncertainty. And I know that when you look at the stress literature, two of the key characteristics of negative stress situations are uncertainty and lack of control. Yeah, and this makes so much sense. I think any time when I get negatively stressed, you know, I stop and think to myself, why am I getting stressed about this? And it's usually one of those two factors, and particularly lack of control.
Yeah.
But also the uncertainty, of course, that's a huge one. What's going to happen? So, and next week in stress management techniques, we'll talk about suggestions on what we could do to counter an uncertain situation, and a situation, a teaching situation where you feel out of control, lack of control. Because obviously they're key ones. We'll get back to that next week. So this is excellent. Very, very good. Okay, let's have a bit of a look. Interesting, we mentioned good stress and bad stress. We call this in psychology the inverted U hypothesis for obvious reasons. And what you find is that, again, a little bit of stress initially is very good. Here, if you've got zero stress, boredom, frustration, but then a little bit of stress, stimulated, alert, decisive, creative. I remember when I was a student for 10 years, probably similar to a lot of you, at length of time, and I found eventually I was stressed by exams, but over time I found that my exam performance improved if I was a little bit stressed. If I was completely bored, flat, I forgot everything. And of course if I was overstressed, forget everything as well. So it's interesting. And then you can see what happens here. If you get too stressed, we go this way. But what's interesting is some occupations, just to make this more meaningful, some occupations thrive at different points here. Can you think of an example of maybe an occupation or a sport where it's good to be incredibly stressed? Incredibly, not stressed, negative stress, but incredibly worked up. Can you think of a sport?
Wrestling.
Nice, good. Wrestling or power weightlifting. You know these guys? There's no decisions to make, so they don't have to worry about creative, decisive. They just get in there. All the energy is just going into it. So that's interesting. Yeah. Can you think of an occupation where it would be very bad to be completely very
I
bad?
can think of another sport. If you're a boxer and you're overstressed and you're not thinking about the next your opponent's punch, that could be dangerous.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. That's good.
What about negotiations?
Oh, hold on, firefighters. Go on. What do you mean?
I mean, if you are optimum, that's good because you really can you need to make like decisions like speed of a second. But if you are just a little like overstressed, you can be confused, and that will really
So
Bad decisions in life and
Yes.
death situations.
Yeah, so-
That's a great example.
I was thinking of pressure from negotiations, and I think of negotiations such as Israel and Palestinians, you know, where they're very stressed out. They're at each other. I think that could be very.
That's very, very true. And I know Australia at the moment, we're doing more and more business with the Chinese people. And having lived in China for 2 years, and I think a few of you here have probably lived in China as well, customs, you know, are so important. You've got to be careful what customs you take to the negotiating table, because you'll say something that is innocent in your culture, and the other side will be sitting over there, I don't believe he said that. Do you know what I mean? And then they'll all get up and walk out of the room en masse. You know, where are they all going? Yeah, oh yeah, this is what the Chinese do. They're very clever. It's all a bluff, you know what I mean? It's all a bluff.
You can't be too direct.
Yes.
And with the arguments, if you're too direct, it's very
So
offensive.
you kind of go around.
Right, because if you're direct, they're expected to be direct. And they don't want to be direct, it's more indirect.
And they like long-term relationships, don't they?
Yes,
So they're
they do.
prepared to take the time. Whereas Westerners, in general,
Yeah.
we want, you know what I mean? I've got a plane this afternoon, we've got to sort this out now.
Right.
Chinese don't care about that.
But more is most of the Eastern cultures, like even the Middle Eastern.
Middle East is very much.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
sure.
I also think about
Yeah, that's the keyword here. That's keyword very important, inshallah. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Making people
Very good.
really aware about the situation.
Yeah.
And then never say like, yes, I will do that. I always say inshallah. Yeah. I'm learning about that.
Sure. I think that's a workshop in itself, inshallah. Interesting. Oh, where do you think a surgeon would be on this, by the way? A surgeon.
Or ER doctors.
Yeah, ER doctors. Obviously, you don't want them.
It's probably somewhere near the top there.
Yeah, that's right.
There would have to be, because it's serious surgery.
I remember my father used to always tell a joke. He used to say, "I'm a surgeon, but I operate with this hand." Yeah. He used to always do that. So now I know what he was talking about. My father was actually an air traffic controller.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So this is very much up his alley. Yeah, he had to, and he had high blood pressure all his life, brought on by air traffic control. He had to take medication for all his life. So interesting occupations. Now some of you have already seen this. I know that Des always loves this, but I can't help showing this. It's just a great little example. Someone who gets stressed. Yeah, the sound's not very good, so I hope that's...
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, that's right.
That really happens in
I can't help but laugh every time.
Every time I see it, I never tire of that. And the guy is perfect for the role. What are you thinking
Like
about?
communication, it's pilot and
Yeah, very good. He was a little bit stressed. I think we can all say that. Now, if we go on to the, here we go, there we go, the effects of stress. And again, we've touched on a few of these already. These are just some statistics I got from, well, mainly from this source down the bottom, American Institute of Stress. US industry, 300 billion annually. And these are old figures. 45% of workers, job insecurity. Makes sense today, doesn't it? I suppose a lot of us are here for job security, you know. I know in my country, Australia, job security is a monster at the moment, and our economy is doing reasonably well.
Yeah.
But still, my mother says to me all the time, "Darling, don't think of coming home too soon." Oh yeah, she says it all the time. She says a lot of my friends' sons and daughters, you know, they're out of work. So anyway.
I thought they were doing real good.
Yeah. Well, they're doing well in, you know, the manufacturing, all those sort of sectors. But in teaching, education, apparently a lot of people are being laid off. So anyway. And the way that different people cope with stress, of course, overeating, drinking alcohol. Well, not a problem here, hopefully, probably. Overeating. What have we got? Sleeping difficulty. This is interesting. 60 to 80% of accidents on the job, stress-related. Yeah, big one.
that could be, you know, the situation here, right? Accident. Is that related to stress, or I have no idea?
What sort of accidents?
accident?
Are you talking about?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, car
I've been here
accidents.
like 4 weeks, but I've seen like about 4 accidents, and then 2 of
Which
them-
one's that on the road?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's not stress.
That's not stress.
Yeah.
Stupid.
That's,
Well, that's positive stress.
Or
That's
maybe,
eustress.
positive stress or something.
Yeah.
That kind of thing I'm also learning here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot of accidents. Yeah. I mean, small one, big one.
One of my
Stress
students.
or like a culture or behavior, I have no idea.
Yeah, I spoke to one of my students about this out of interest, and I said, "Yeah, why are there so many? You know, why do they drive so fast? Is it because it's like a new toy, relatively speaking? You know, they've only had cars for 50 years, 40, 50 years." And he said, "No, nothing to do with that, teacher. It's because in our past we were quite belligerent."
Wow.
And he said that's actually come through today. And when you put us in a car, and he showed me, as we were driving along, he was pointing out various drivers to me. He was driving me home one night, and they'd be driving along, and they'd come up to another person who they don't know, and they'd deliberately provoke them. I'm going, why is he doing this? Just it's in the blood, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, it ends up leading into an accident, so the last laugh is on them. But interesting. Sort of eustress, positive stress. I love it.
Yes. That accounts for the other night I was driving and there's a tunnel thing that we go through and this car came racing behind me and there was barely enough room for, you know, he could have hit that wall there, but I had to pull right over to get him through, otherwise, wow.
Sure.
He would have, that would have been the end of him, or me.
That's amazing. I mean, it's a 3-lane road. Well, if it's 3 lanes, and incredibly somehow they'll turn it into 5.
Oh, they turn into 5.
I'm always amazed at how they do this. Yeah. Okay. Again, all of these, people would agree with the most of them. Are we missing anything there? Any major ones? 40% of job turnover due to stress. 12%. Called in sick. Yeah,
that happens here, I think, PMU. I've seen that happen where people, staff particularly,
Okay.
will call in sick. Just
You think it's stress related somehow?
I believe it's stress.
Okay. Of course, we're in an interesting situation here. I suppose we can add it in, like Andy mentioned, the culture shock. That's obviously a big one here, relevant to all of us. Hopefully that won't affect us too much, inshallah. We all relax now.
You said the word.
Yeah, that's right. You're the man. We talk about signs of stress, 3 main categories: physical signs, psychological and behavioural. Physical, hypertension, headaches, constipation. I tell you what, I can relate to a couple of these straight away. I know that when I went to China, funny topic to talk about, but I go to the toilet once every day. I teach physical education, so we can talk about these things. But, and I teach about diet. But I go to the toilet regularly once every day, a lot of water, lots of fibre. But when I went to China, culture shock, stress, I didn't go for the first 5 days. Ooh. Do you know what I mean? And I wanted to go, and the more I wanted to go, the less I could go. In the end, I went to some Chinese quack doctor. He filled me up with pills and things, and eventually I had to go.
I wonder they didn't give you an enema or something.
Yeah, I tell you. But boy, I found every time now I go to a new country, the same thing happens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, not for 5 days, but I'm not regular anymore. So I find that interesting. And I know that when I went to China, I had this little guy, and I had an ulcer. And I had it, I know now that I had it before I left Australia to go to China, but when I got to China, it was exacerbated, aggravated, and over there they drink the white wine, lethal, like 60% alcohol. It's just rocket fuel. You've got no idea, small little glasses. And over there, of course, you'll be sitting around a table, and I was the new person, so every time, they're very hospitable. Every time I went to someone's house, they'd have all the friends over. Oh, I've got a foreigner coming, da-da-da, and I'd be up the head of the table, and out would come the rocket fuel, you know what I mean? And I knew what was coming.
Dumplings if you're in North China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And again,
I was in China for 1 year. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And again, they'd look at me, and one person would look at you and go, "Kampe!" Cheers. Once they do the kampe, you got to do it. So I just and they down it, just skull. And exactly, as soon as it hits the table, someone's scuffled around behind you. And then I quickly learnt that if I looked around the table and someone caught my eye, they'd quickly go, "Kampe!"
Yeah.
So for the rest of the meal, I'd sit there like this. Do you know what I mean? Bruce? Yes. I'm not joking. And the point is, 3 months of this destroyed my ulcer. And what was a minor problem when I left Australia, I had to go to hospital in the end in China. And that's when, they fed this thing through my nose. And they had a camera attached to it with the light. It was quite amazing. And they took a picture. Sure enough, there was a hole in my stomach. So no more kampe for me. But anyway, physical signs. Does anyone here notice, does anyone here suffer from some of these things sometimes? What do you folks notice about yourself?
It seems, in my case, from my experience with living in Saudi Arabia, if I go out somewhere for vacation or holiday, and then when I come back, invariably I get a cold. That's curious. And I don't know if it has anything to do with stress.
I believe it does. I believe it does because I noticed at university when I was a student, after exams, as soon as the exams finished every semester, at the start of the holidays, I get a cold. This happened all the time. Why? My immune system was working overtime during the exams, to bearing the brunt of all this stress. And as soon as I did that last exam, you're relaxed, bang, you get a common cold. So I think it's probably related to that.
Very well be. That
could be. The immune system.
What I was thinking was, I found with me for getting sick, I never get sick during the week. But if I do, it's on the weekend, and when that weekend is over, I'm fine again. And I haven't had that lately, for quite a while, but that used to be a kind of a pattern. If I got sick, it was on the weekend.
Interesting.
Why? I think it's mind over matter.
Maybe the same thing again, your immune system keeps you going till Saturday or whenever the weekend is. Notice that it often rains on the weekend too. What's the theory there? There's some connection there. You hang out for Saturday and it rains.
Ooh,
just by luck.
I get sick for the weekend, you don't have to call it sick for work.
It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. Psychological signs, short fuse. I know that I've suffered from this when I'm, normally my tolerance levels, and you don't want to catch someone who's really stressed on a bad day because they just lose it. Oh, sorry, I said that. Sorry. Depression, tearful. What have we got? Withdrawn, sensitive to criticism. Behavioural signs. These are obviously a lot more obvious. We can notice these in other people. Absences. Interesting. The person can be absent, but then they can do the complete opposite. They can be a workaholic, bury themselves in work. That's just a way of dealing with the stress. Waking tired. Once again, I remember I had a friend at university. He used to wake up tired every morning. And I look back now, and it was stress-related. So I remember he wasn't really enjoying the course that he was doing at university. So every morning he'd wake up and just, I've got to go to university. He just wasn't motivated. So I think that was part of it. So if you wake up tired all the time, even though you're getting 10 hours sleep, could be the reason. Decreased loyalty to the company you work for, staff turnover, relationship problems, or no humour. Boy, isn't that a big one? And when we're feeling good, normally, we're a barrel of laughs.
Yeah, well, what's funny about that?
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Christmas is coming up.
What are you saying? What are you saying? Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, time for another little activity. If you turn over your sheet, there's another sheet for you.
That's a long one.
Again, don't try and skip through it. I know you're all professors and you dot your I's and cross your T's, whatever. Yeah, just skip down the columns there. Yes or no, are you stressed? Just first responses, don't think too much.
We have a third column that says sometime.
All right, you're the maybe man. Yeah, be as honest as you can. I won't be sharing these with anyone except Dr. Risa.
Ooh.
Now you can take these away with you, these shoes.
This one, number 14, is like a driving behavior. That's good.
14, oh yes, yes. Once you finish, add up your yeses. Give yourself 1 point for each yes.
This is bad.
Preference score. Again, there's no right or wrong answers. This is all about developing personal awareness to stress, which is the point of the workshop.
The answer is no, you can't get higher than 0.
Oh,
Is that stressful?
Okay. How'd you go, John? All right?
Yeah, I did okay.
You did okay. Okay, now let me show you something. Again, this is just a guide. There's no, as I said, there's no black and white answers for here, but the group that devised this is actually the American Psychological Association. So, sorry, I tell a lie, from the UK Psychology Association. There we go, down the bottom, UK. And this was a bit of a guide they gave. So if you've got 4 points or less, you are least likely to suffer from stress-related illness. So 4 yeses. 5 to 13 yeses, more likely to experience stress, more likely, that's all. You would benefit from some stress management advice.
do they have anything like 20 or more?
Yep. 14 points or more, 14 points or more, you are the most prone to stress. You are also more likely to experience stress, stress-related illness, migraines, back, da-da-da-da-da. It is important to seek professional help or counselling.
My goodness. When are you available?
Good, I'll give you my business card straight away. Only $200 an hour.
You know, I have a 9,
9?
but I disagree with that.
Okay, good. Why?
Because I don't really feel stressed.
Okay.
No, I
I kind of let things like flow.
Okay.
Go
Now,
with the flow.
Yeah.
now this might mean that you're good at coping with stress. That's all.
Yeah, but I agree with, I got like 6 points, but I agree with, this observation,
Okay.
sometimes experience stress,
Okay.
uncontrollable.
Okay. I suppose the other thing is you read the questions again. They're very general, and they're not situation specific. You know what I mean? I know that. I mean, I read one of it here. One of the questions. What did I have here? 12. I have a tendency to eat, talk, walk, and drive quickly. I do that at certain times, and I deliberately do it for exercise reasons. Not so much because I'm feeling stressed at the time. So again, it's just a bit of a guide.
Yeah, but this one over here, grinding my teeth. I've been grinding my teeth since I was 5 years old.
Okay.
I mean, I've done that for years.
Isn't that bad though for your health?
It is. Well, do you grind them in your sleep?
In my sleep.
That's a big one.
That's the one.
Because I know my mother used to do this, and again, this is just bad for your teeth, full stop.
Yeah.
So my mother had to go to a dental surgeon. He made one of these, mouth plates that she has to wear at night time. just to protect your teeth.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Yeah. No, I don't wear that.
Oh, okay.
This is when my teeth are the way they are.
Okay, okay.
Actually, I think
But
this.
you did?
Yeah, and actually I know this because I
And
know
you
who's
do
paying
this.
here, so.
Exactly, and then often that can lead to
Yes.
migraines, to headaches, constant grinding. Sorry, Zeke.
I was going to say, a few minutes ago, I thought we should have a maybe, or
Yep.
sometimes call, you know.
Okay.
Actually, I take that back now, because I think this is actually a good questionnaire, given whether you have to choose either yes or no, when in fact, sometimes you would feel opposite to what each one of these situations indicates.
Is there one in particular you can
Well,
relate to, as an example?
Well, yeah, number 5, I underestimate how long it takes to do things. Well, sometimes I underestimate, and sometimes I don't underestimate. But I checked yes here, but only after thinking about it. On which side do you tend to be more positive in this?
Okay.
To answer yes, or how often would you be more inclined to answer no? And then that type of weighing, I think, is indicative or indicates the actual truth about your own self. Because I think all of these probably could be answered sometimes, but maybe.
I think a yes doesn't automatically mean you're stressed, of course, because if you look at number 1, I frequently bring home work at night. That doesn't necessarily mean you're stressed, but it's like a risk factor. It could lead to, this is the way that I understand it.
So if you have an office at home.
Yeah.
But what I mean by
I've got an office at home, and you set
No,
up.
no, seriously, over the last
Okay.
25 years, 20 years, I always have an office at home.
Ah,
So I have to bring work home. Sometimes I get up in the morning and say I'm not to go into the office.
okay.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily a sign of stress or something that could
No,
lead to stress.
Yes, you're
But I
right.
don't
Yeah.
think that's what it means. I think it means like, do you have like a private time?
Do you have
Work
time
at
away,
the end, so,
time
yeah.
off? Yeah, I think that's what it means as well. But good observation, good observation. No, good, good. Okay, we're doing very well. Let's have a look. So, now this gets us to our last area, workplace sources of stress. And what I've done is I've compiled these from various sources and from just my own experiences here at PMU. Let's see if you can relate to some of these. Workplace culture, excessive workload, lack of variety, meaningfulness of work. So all of these could give you these sources of stress. Lack of job autonomy, maybe. Some people would maybe like that, not having job autonomy. They just want to be told exactly what to do and it's my way or the highway.
But you have mentioned that lack of control is one of the reasons. for
lack of
stress.
control.
So if you don't
Good.
have your autonomy, like you have
Okay.
control. So.
Okay. One that I've noticed, interest to hear what you think about this, Des, is the 4th one, lack of recognition and reward. I hear this a lot in the corridors from teachers, just saying no one appreciates me here. Do you know what I mean? The only time I hear from my dean or my chair is when they catch me doing something wrong. But I've always read that managers catch people doing the right things, not the wrong things.
But I was just going to say this morning, I had someone in my office for probably a couple of hours, just dealing with that very issue. We're not appreciated, we're not
Right.
recognized, nobody cares, that kind of thing. That bothers me.
I think it's a big one.
It could also be a cultural thing.
Oh, that's possible?
I think, having lived and worked in America for many years,
Okay.
I think it's more so of a cultural thing because the Americans, when I say like the ones that are born in the U.S. and grew up there, see that as a problem, whereas a foreigner that actually come and naturalize in America may not see that as a problem. Because for a foreigner, sometimes the praise might not be very comfortable to accept. Yes.
Okay.
So I think it's a Western thing, Western versus other culture thing. Yeah.
That's true. I suppose the fact that there are a lot of Westerners working here, though,
Yes.
it's it still is important that
Important, yes.
they try and,
But if you look at the culture here, it may not
Yeah.
be,
yeah.
it may not be that they don't want to praise you, it may not be maybe a cultural thing. Because, you know, you've grown up in Africa. I don't know how it is in Sudan, but in Nigeria, how many times did your father tell you you're doing a good job? Because you know they think you're doing a good job, but that's not said.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
Someone asked me one day,
It's embarrassing.
yes,
Interesting.
well, then whatever tell you she loves you, I know she loves me, but she doesn't say she loves me. Because it's not cultural. Yeah.
Good one, giving us a different
But
slant.
I think it is just like, maybe it's just different, how do you say, like different ways of expression. Like you are recognized, but not by saying praises other way. So just like different. But I still, I mean, I don't like people telling me like we're doing a good job and stuff, but still, I like to be appreciated.
Appreciate, that's it.
Yeah, so it's just different ways of expression.
I suppose there are other ways to show this though,
Yes.
as in like salary increments.
Oops.
That's just an obvious one that comes to mind straight away.
What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, I forget that.
Yeah, that might be what
Pushing
we
this a
hear.
little.
Is that the practice here? I mean, like, well, you know, in terms of.
Excuse me, is this going to Dr. Easton?
No, it's not. This is an in-house. The longer I work here, the less money
Yeah, I
I'm
can
making
share a
each
little bit
month.
about this,
So-
the culture things.
I am. I'm actually
Yeah,
losing money.
this maybe because influenced by like, you know, I am Muslim here.
Okay.
It's what's so called like ikhlas. Ikhlas, you know, do things like because of God.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, someone do not recognition for others. That might be something like influential to people.
Yes,
here.
yes.
So everything must be awarded from like a God or something. That I don't know. Yeah. That I can share with you that. that
Different.
might be
Yeah,
some-
thanks. That's good. That's good. It's very interesting. One or two others having to work evenings. So again, source of stress, work
It's you.
evenings.
Are you doing that?
But I like the evening students. They're very diligent, they're
There's
very
a
professional.
positive side to it.
I'd
That's
rather
true.
work evenings if I could, because I like the evening students' attitude, and they're usually mature, and they're just more, I would say, mature in their outlook, their attitude.
More motivated.
Right, and about their grade, when you usually have a grade issue, something legitimate, than just they want a raise. So I learned a lot from my evening students also,
Good.
about Saudi Arabia and how it is to work at Aramco and everything else. So I actually like the evening students. a little
I
bit
noticed
more.
something a little bit similar, John, with, again, I work with the female students and the male students. And some teachers that I work with find it stressful, male students working with the females, but I love working with the females because they're more diligent.